Grass, trees, vegetation. It's the fabric that holds our marshes here in South Louisiana together. For the longest time, saltwater intrusion came into our marshes, into our freshwater swamps, and killed off a lot of our vegetation. With that dying vegetation went the habitat for our fisheries and the habitat for our wildlife, and especially the habitat for our waterfowl. Now in certain parts of Louisiana, because of coastal restoration efforts and efforts to block the saltwater intrusion from coming in, a lot of that submerged vegetation is coming back, and in a lot of places, cypress trees are coming back. And with that comes a diverse amount of wildlife, fish, plant life, the whole fabric of the coast being put back together. The nice little bass we got here, and we're catching them right here off the MRGO here in St. Bernard Parish. There's a whole lot of submerged vegetation in here. And not only is that submerged vegetation important for these fish, but for the food that they feed on too. This grass, even here in the wintertime, is full of shrimp. The other important thing though is keeping this vegetation alive. The reason this submerged vegetation has come back in this marsh is because the salinities have gone down. This morning, we caught speckled trout 100 yards the other direction. Now we're in the grass beds catching bass. A large component of coastal restoration projects like marsh creation and barrier island restoration is aggressive planting of vegetation to hold those projects together. But an even bigger part is the submerged grass that's come back and keeping the vegetation that's already in the marsh alive by eliminating a lot of the saltwater intrusion. Saltwater intrusion came into a lot of Louisiana marshes and killed off a lot of vegetation. Now some of that vegetation is coming back, and with it are coming the fish and the wildlife. It's almost unfair how fast these fish are biting. We're in the middle of January. This water's cold, but we're fishing the edge of that grass bed right there. This submerged vegetation has turned this into an incredible fishery. Bass, speckled trout, redfish, flounder, drum, sheep's head, ducks, you name it, all here, all because of this submerged vegetation. In addition to being good habitat for fish and wildlife, submerged vegetation plays a key role in helping trap that sediment. That trapped sediment can settle to the bottom and help create new land. In addition to the grass that's on the land that helps hold the land together, the submerged vegetation plays a key role. It's habitat for juvenile fish, it's habitat for adult fish, but it also helps filter out a lot of sediment that could be coming out of diversions, that could be coming from wave action. It makes our water cleaner, it infuses oxygen into the system. Catching bass and redfish in the marsh in St. Bernard Parish, in the submerged vegetation, and now we're looking at trying to bring the cypress trees back in marsh very, very close. And the common factor is, let's limit the salinities. We can't have the submerged vegetation in that marsh that's so important as fish habitat without bringing the salinities down. We can't have cypress trees being replanted all across coastal Louisiana to rebuild that habitat without bringing the salinities down. And that's the common goal.
You have to come out here and test the soil, make sure the salinity levels are down enough to where that you give these cypress trees a chance to survive. If not, we've done projects with higher salinities in the soil, and it wasn't a good success. Out here, we're getting 80% or so survival rate. It's just unbelievable how much difference there is with this fresh water coming in to help bring new nutrients and replenish with all the stuff the plants have taken up.
We got the Carnarvon diversion right over here over my shoulder, and all of that water is keeping this area fresh. This would have been inundated with salt water 25, 30 years ago before Carnarvon opened. Now you've got good, fresh, healthy marsh in here, and you've got the nutrients coming out of the Mississippi River, and these trees and all of this wetland is absorbing that. And now you can come back out here and have the cypress forest that you'd have had at one time, but that died off because of the saltwater intrusion.
So right now we're probably up to a little over 40,000 cypress trees that we've planted out here. This is to help bring back cypress hardwood forest that was here hundreds of years ago. 3 years ago, whenever we put these trees out, they were possibly, 3 foot, 4 foot tall. Now they're upwards to 8, 9, and 12 foot tall right now.
It covers the cypress trees. It protects them from the nutrients, so they don't eat the trees.
There's not many things that get me really excited, but it's been a year since I've been out here, and when I got out here to see how big these cypress trees have gotten, it really gave me a good shock. You can see with the growth of these cypress trees that we planted over 3 years ago. It's amazing how these things have taken off and really survived and thrived, and gives hope for the future of establishing more cypress tree forests back out here again.
So the vegetation is the key, not only to the fish habitat, but to our swamps and our marshes. We gotta have that vegetation to hold these swamps and these marshes together, to protect our communities and protect our fisheries. Cypress trees, submerged vegetation in our marsh, all depends on limiting the salinities and getting these marshes and these swamps to grow back.